Hi, this is Elliot Haspel and welcome to another edition of Best Practices Weekly. Today we're going to be talking about using student-produced movies as a literacy strategy. And this comes from an article in The Reading Teacher, in which reading expert Timothy Rosinski and a second grade teacher talk about how you can take the reader's theater idea to the next level and incorporate a huge number of literacy strategies by having students actually produce their own movies. And this article actually focused on second graders, so this is not just for older kids, but actually can be done with pretty young kids. And so I'm going to go through the different steps that they talk about. First of all, this was done over a 2-week period, 20 minutes per day that they were working on the different stages of producing their own movies. In order to prepare, make sure you've got a video camera on hand. Often schools have these available, or you can get a cheap little flip camera. And also make sure that the student computers have very basic movie editing software on them. Windows Movie Maker, iMovie if you have Macs, things like that. So those are sort of the two technological needs that you have here. The first step is grouping. So students are sort of led to brainstorm different genres of stories that they might want to turn into a movie, and then they're allowed to choose their own group. So we really want students to have a high level of investment because they're going to be working on this project for a while. And the teacher acts as a mediator here because, of course, anytime you're just sort of giving second graders a chance to go choose their own groups, it's going to be a little bit chaotic. But the teacher here actually says that's okay, just make sure that you're facilitating and mediating and that the groups are relatively, even size. And then once students are in the groups and they know that I want to do, a genre, I want to do a funny story, I want to do, a mystery, I want to do an action, then they're going to start developing their ideas for the kind of script that they want. And so to do this, they need to choose, for the most part, a mentor text that they're going to turn into a movie script. So we're not asking elementary school students to come up with their own ideas from scratch. What you're saying is, think about a book or a story that you've read before, and we're going to turn that into a movie. We're going to adapt it. Similar to how you can adapt stories into readers' theater scripts. And so, some groups used stories that the entire class has read, for the read-alouds. Other groups used scenes from a longer novel. And some even made parodies of children's books. So it could either be a direct, I'm going to turn this book that I'm going to turn this Captain Underpants book into a movie script, or it can be, I'm going to make my own version of, the Three Little Pigs. Then, the third stage is this idea of creating a script treatment. This isn't a full script, this is more of an overview. This includes the title of the movie, the characters in the movie, and just a summary of the beginning, the middle, and the end of it. Students can hold auditions for the different parts within their group. They also need to choose some production roles. Someone should be the director, someone should be the grip, who's the camera person, things like that. And they meet with the teacher in this stage to make sure that all the necessary roles are filled, that they don't have too many, that they're not missing any, things like this. So a couple points throughout this process, the teacher is definitely checking in to make sure that things are on track. Next, the students create a storyboard, and there are templates for this that you can find online. And so what this means is students are drawing what the different scenes are going to look like, and they're also thinking about what props are going to be needed in this scene, what's the location, what are the characters who are in this scene, things like this. And again, let students be creative. If the location needs to be out in the playground, then that's fine, just whatever is going to work for you in your context. Next, students do scripting. So this is when they're literally transforming the mentor text into a script. This is working together in a group that's rotating through different jobs, so you don't want one student doing all the work. So, one student might be responsible at first for trying to actually turn the text into lines of dialogue, and then the next student in the group is responsible for checking the grammar and the spelling, and then the third student is responsible for making sure they stay on track, and then after a paragraph, they switch over roles. These scripts will generally end up being about 1 to 3 pages, which represents about a 1 to 3 minute movie, so that's all we're talking about here. But again, this is looking at a chapter from a novel, looking at a children's book, and really thinking about how do I turn this into a movie script. So that's what the scripting is. Then they have a pre-production conference. So this is when the groups will meet with the teacher again. The teacher makes what he calls light edits to the script. So the purpose here is not that they have a perfect script. The purpose is that the script, represents in general what the mentor text was displaying. The teacher here also needs to make sure that the props are feasible and that the students aren't getting ahead of themselves and trying to do something that's too ambitious. And also, here's where they set a timeline for filming. So they say, we're going to film in a week, so you need to practice and get everything ready, within the week. The practice part's obviously very important. This is where it becomes similar to Reader's Theater again, where they're really practicing fluency. Then there's filming. So the groups get usually 1 day to film, and the teacher talks about concretely how to do this is to fit it in between informal instruction periods. So, between your reading block and before you go to lunch, maybe there's 15 minutes. That's enough time to film 2 scenes. And then between your, independent reading block and the time that you're going to start your science block, maybe that's 10 minutes again. Let the students go and, then you're going to film the next couple of scenes. So should be able to get it done, and by giving students 1 day to film throughout the day, that also restricts, make sure that they're being efficient, make sure they're not really lollygagging or anything like that. And then they download the clips to a computer. Finally, students do post-production. So this is editing and producing their movies on the computer using the software. And, the author even calls out in this article, you might be surprised to think that second graders would be able to use, iMovie or Windows Movie Maker. But he says, doing one lesson for the students, showing them how to do that, students actually pick it up pretty quickly. So again, even younger students can really do this if you show them the basic functionality of these softwares. And there are easy guides online, again, if you yourself want to kind of brush up on how to use these programs if you haven't used them before. And during this post-production, students are putting the clips together. They'll add music maybe if they want to, some fade in, some fade out, stuff like that. And then finally, the premiere. Students premiere the videos in front of the whole class. Maybe you want to invite parents. And it was really great fun. So the reason that this is so valuable is because it really brings in a huge number of literacy strategies. You're bringing in the idea of doing the visual by having to create a storyboard. You're creating summaries. You're having to put things in your own words, which is really showing high-level reading comprehension. You're having to do, obviously, interpersonal skills, which isn't necessarily a literacy skill. You have to practice fluency over and over again. And you have to think about the narrative structure of a story. So really, throughout this strategy, students are bringing in a massive number of practicing literacy strategies, and they're really ultimately going to be doing a lot of higher order stuff, which they're also going to have a huge amount of fun doing. So this is Student Produced Movies as a literacy strategy. Thanks for watching, and happy teaching.